Hey there, thanks for tuning into Duck Bricks. I'm Chris, and today we have some incredibly exciting LEGO Ninjago news. The entire first half of the year wave of LEGO Ninjago 2023 core has been revealed. And man, is there so much to cover here because we have gotten our first look at so many different unique LEGO Ninjago sets. So just to give a quick recap of kind of where we're at with Ninjago, next year they are actually launching a brand new Ninjago series. It is not a reboot timeline-wise. There's been a lot of speculation as to it probably being a relaunch for the characters themselves, so we're getting probably brand new characters in a hopefully different time frame. We can really only speculate on that for now. But in the meantime, what it appears to be is that the winter waves, aka the January LEGO sets, will be focused on the original 6 Ninja and Pixel and Woo, and then the summer sets will be progressing the story. And this is going to take form in the Ninjago core lineup. So earlier this year, we got a ton of Ninjago core sets, which most of the part were not canon to the TV show, but instead worked to kind of introduce new adventures and stuff for the ninja to do while they weren't on screen. Core also introduced a brand new system of mech building, with the Evo Mechs here retailing for around $10 each. So far, we only got an Evo Mech for Zane here. We got one for Kai up there. And lastly, we actually got a 4+1 for Lloyd all the way near the bottom here. So we definitely were wanting to get some for some of the other ninja, and thankfully this wave will be delivering on some of that. We also will be getting a whole new set of vehicles for the ninja themselves. Last time in core, we got the Ninja Ultra Combo Mech, which was a really cool mech that they couldn't resist putting in the TV show itself, actually appearing for the final episodes of Crystallized. But then we also got a ton of other vehicles, like we got some Snake Villain vehicles, we got a car for Jay and Nia. This one right here was their race car. We got some stuff for Lloyd. Lloyd's core car actually did appear in the show. And of course, we got the massive Lloyd's Legendary Dragon last time, which in my opinion is the best LEGO Ninjago Dragon they've ever done, and you can actually check that out in my top 10 Ninjago Dragons video, where spoiler alert, this guy is the king at the top. So for this year of core, 2023 is bringing us a whole new assortment of mechs, jets, bikes, planes, and yes, one massive 6-legged dragon for Zane, which I am so excited to build. There's so much to look through here, so we may as well just start off kicking things off and look at the pictures themselves, introducing a brand new villain faction, a cross between the Skulkin and the Ghosts. We also have so many different animals and creatures and vehicles, and I certainly can't wait for the summer and see how the story progresses. But in the meantime, I am very excited to be able to actually build these brand new Ninjago core sets myself. So let's go in and take a look.
Okay, so there are 9 sets we have to get through here, and Ninjago Core is absolutely popping off this year. It honestly kind of feels like a redemption arc after this year's Ninjago Core, where there were maybe a couple of good sets and the rest of them felt very juniorized and not really all too interesting. Whereas the sets here are all really good. Even the smallest stuff has something interesting to offer, and that's why we're starting from the smallest and working our way up. Set number 71780 is Kai's Ninja Race Car Evo. It retails for about $10 US and 10 euros and whatnot, making it one of the smallest Ninjago sets in recent history. But that's actually a really good thing, because obviously Core is designed to bring new kids into the world of Ninjago. And one of the most important thing of being able to bring a new audience into an evergreen theme is having smaller sized offerings to draw them in as kind of impulse buys. And so, for this particular wave, we are getting 2 $10 sets, 71780 Kai's Ninja Race Car Evo and Jay's Lightning Jet, which is 71784, which we'll take a look at in a second. Pulling it back to this race car itself, I actually kind of like the design of this. Despite the fact that, yeah, it's pretty simplified, it's just a little $10 car, I actually kind of like the shaping of this quite a lot. There's something very unique about it that we haven't really seen before in Ninjago. It is a very blocky and boxy look, but that's not a bad thing, because I think the car really makes it work in its favor. As you can see, the wheels are brand new for 2023. I'm curious how well they roll, because they do not look like they would roll very well on hard surfaces, but maybe they would, we'll see. And the car also does make use of some of the specialized Ninjago armor pieces and the front slope pieces. Unfortunately, they do look like they're stickers. I was kind of used to getting prints for slightly more juniorized stuff, and maybe that's reserved for 4+ and not the age range of these, which is 6+. That being said, because it isn't a 4+ set, you really can do a lot of stuff with this car. guitar. I actually quite like the way that it looks, and for $10, this is a great way for kids to kind of get introduced to the LEGO Ninjago theme. Even though, yes, the ninja suits are just this year's core suits, but hey, that probably means they're saving the budget for next year's summer wave, because that will introduce a whole host of brand new characters. I'm guessing new face prints, probably new ninja wraps, definitely new torsos and legs for whatever the main characters are, new prints and molds for the villains and whatnot, so I'm sure they're saving their budget for that, which is why we're getting a reuse of minifigures here. Moving on to the next set, set number 71784 is Jay's Lightning Jet Evo. This is yet another seeming remake of Jay's Lightning Jet, which we first got in 2012 for Rise of the Snakes, then we got another one in 2019 for Ninjago Legacy, and then we got another one for the 4+ stuff in 2020, and yeah, now we're getting it again. Sure, it's not explicitly supposed to be a remake of that older set, but I mean, just look at it. It is very similar in form factor to the original Lightning Jets, which is not a bad thing. I actually kind of like how they're sticking to this design aesthetic and language for Jay. It's just maybe not the most interesting subject material because, well, we've seen it before. It would have been really cool to get a jet for, say, Cole, or maybe even Lloyd, who hasn't actually gotten any jets before. That would have been pretty interesting. But alas, this is yet another jet for Jay, which is alright. I think I kind of like the Kai's vehicle a little bit better. The core functionality here basically just consists of adding on some of the blades and stud shooters to the vehicle itself, which is alright. It is a cool gimmick for kids to be able to feel like they are upgrading their sets, but it does look particularly incomplete without the core upgrades, specifically with just the exposed studs on the side on the initial part of it, whereas some of the other sets balanced it a little bit better by having some of the initial stages of core still feel like their own unique thing. That being said, it is only $10. It's another great entry into the Ninjago theme. It's just one step above 4+, so we're not looking at any crazy building techniques here, although I do actually kind of appreciate how the engines come together. They actually do have those engine blocks having some intakes there, which I think is quite nice. Moving onwards, we have what is the only set to introduce a brand new outfit for one of the ninja this wave. This is set number 71781, Lloyd's Mech Battle Evo, introducing a brand new version of Golden Lloyd. Yet another golden version of him, which I think is a pretty interesting one. It has a nice blend between the dark green and the initial parts of the robe. Would have been cool to actually have gotten this particular head wrap for, say, the Oni Lloyd that we got earlier in Crystallized, but hey, you know, you can still use it for that if you wanted to, although in the show the headband was black because presumably they wanted to use Cole's headband for that one. Now this is an interesting set because for $20 it features a duel between two different mechs, giving the villains the biggest spotlight that they get throughout this entire wave. Now, I understand that for core, the focus is not on the villains, it absolutely is on the ninja. One of my biggest complaints with Ninjago recently has been they honestly haven't been giving the villains a lot of focus. In 2011, when Ninjago first started, the Skulkin had a ton of vehicles, the awesome monster truck, motorcycles, even a helicopter, and the ninjas had their 4 dragons, and that was basically it in terms of vehicle-like sets. Even in Rise of the Snakes, when we actually got vehicles themselves for the ninja, we still got the Serpentine Wrecking Ball, the Serpentine Helicopter, the Serpentine Motorbikes and mechs and whatnot. And then, as the years went on, LEGO probably realized that ninja sets sell a lot better than villain sets, because if a kid had to choose one Ninjago set, they'd probably get Lloyd's Mech versus random villain mech, which is only relevant for one season. But I always felt that the designs for the villain builds were the most unique and prevents the theme from feeling stagnant. And they did a really good job of this in, say, the Skybound waves, where it was predominantly villain-focused and they really leaned into a crazy steampunk-like aesthetic. Possession and Tournament of Elements also had a good amount of villain sets, but then in recent years, if you look back on it, Crystallized had, 2 villain sets. We basically had the Overlord in his centaur form, and then we had a temple, none of which were the largest sets of the wave. They were kind of some of the smaller offerings. Seabound also just had a temple set for the villain factions, and really nothing else for the villains, which was very disappointing. Even with stuff like the Island, we got one set with the Islander Catamaran with the villain focus, but then again, that also had a Kai Catamaran. So again, my point here is, LEGO has really been only focusing on the ninja nowadays. Which is why it's always good to get villain representation, even if it's in the form of a 2-pack mech battle, and they probably are only doing this because they figure you're getting the set for Lloyd's Mech. But hey, you know what? I will take another villain mech. This is a really cool looking thing. I love the color scheme of the original villains here. While the initial core snakes were honestly kind of boring to me, I thought they were alright. You could kind of see them as different breeds of constricti if you really wanted to. These really do feel like their own unique concept. And yeah, they definitely tie back into the Skulkin, which I think is a really cool thing because for the first set here, you can notice that they actually have a brand new weapons pack for the villain mechs, featuring bone-like designs for sais, swords, scythes, sort of headdresses, all sorts of really cool pieces for the villains, and I love the inclusion of these. The aesthetic of the villain minifigures, despite them absolutely not being canon whatsoever, is still really cool, and you can obviously imagine them as maybe some sort of a faction of Skulkin, or evolved form of Skulkin, who kind of share the same color scheme of some of the initial Skulkin stuff, but still introduce their own look and feel, like the kind of greenish energy, almost like you're combining Skulkin and Ghosts. Altogether, a $20 mech dual pack is something that Ninjago has been missing. We have gotten a ton of different bike dual packs and whatnot, but we haven't gotten a ton of mech dual packs until now, and this is a really cool one. And it's nice to finally get a core mech for Lloyd that isn't a 4+ set. I hope that eventually they do these for all the Ninja, which is why later on the list it's going to get a little disappointing when they do another one for Kai after we literally just got one this year. I don't know why we still haven't gotten one for Cole. In the animations, he literally uses Kai's mech, which has become a meme. So we'll see. Maybe next year, January, we'll get a core mech for Cole. But as of right now, here's another one for Lloyd. Moving on to our next set, we have set number 71800. This is Nia's Water Dragon Evo, also retailing for $20 US. Now this is a pretty nice one. It seems to be some sort of a retailer exclusive because it hasn't really been featured on the backs of instruction manuals and whatnot. But this is a really cool set to get because it actually has one of these smaller forms of a water dragon for Nia, something that has been sorely lacking because Nia hasn't really gotten dragons before other than her Seabound dragon. And maybe if you want to count Jay's Lightning Dragon, because in the show that was a fusion between lightning and water, even though it was just marketed as a Jay's Dragon, so I don't know about that. Her other dragon was also a fusion dragon between her and Kai, which was explicitly a fusion one, so it's cool to get a smaller sized dragon for Nia. One thing I really do like about this, that honestly really only works for a water dragon, is the way that the wings are done, being very, very thin blade-like pieces. Now, typically I complain a lot about these, but this, I don't know, something about it feels very water-like to me. It kind of feels like a callback to her Water Dragon set from Seabound, and one of the things I really like about this, that despite being a core set, where if you look at Last Wave, the dragons were really, really simplified and their body shapes were not all too interesting, this actually has a pretty interesting body shape where it has a curve to the body, the neck arcs upwards. It just provides a different look and feel to the body itself. And in flight, this could look really cool because you don't absolutely have to have it at this 90-degree angle. You can kind of position the body where it's kind of angling the bottom upwards, where I just think this is a more interesting look and feel for a dragon. And hey, I will take any sets focused on just Nia because we have been sorely lacking these in the recent history. The villain for the set is some sort of a gliding-like opponent, which is very cool. I love the amount of blades that he has on his back there, and this may be one of my favorite weapon packs from Ninjago in recent history, and I really wish that they used this for maybe Legacy Skulkin or something like that, because they're really, really cool bone-inspired weapons for the Bone Army right here. But moving on from that, we actually have a bit of an increase in prices for 71782 Cole's Earth Dragon Evo, retailing for $35 US. And may I say, boy does it feel good to get a dragon dedicated to just Cole after many years. The last one we got was in Skybound, and that one was a really, really small little guy. I think it was like a $10 set or something. This is more substantial. And for $35, they actually can do a lot more interesting things with it, such as introducing new horn molds for this year in 2023. For the core wave, those golden horns are brand new. The headpiece for the upper jaw is also new and looks fantastic for an Earth Dragon. I love the way the printing turned out on that. And I also love the color scheme being predominantly orange, black, and brown, which is a really cool thing with tan highlights as well. All in all, This feels like almost a sort of callback to Cole's initial Earth Dragon from 2011 that felt like it was more of a lizard-like land-based creature. Sure, this one does have the orange wings on it, which the initial set did not have, but I think this is just a really unique and interesting type of look and feel for this particular dragon type. I love the tan highlights. Recoloring the Unikitty tail piece or the Chima claw piece in tan is fantastic, and I also really like how they're giving us some diversity in the villains. Whereas the core snakes last year felt like we were getting a ton of the identical villains in the same sets over and over again, these actually are having different body shapes. Like this one is a spider-like thing, kind of recalling back to some of the Chima scorpions that we got before. We also got that flyer one before, and you'll see some more interesting types of builds that they can do for the villains. And again, the focus isn't on the villains for core, but they are still doing some unique things with them, and that I can really appreciate. But moving on, we have set number 71783. This retails for $45 US, and it's Kai's Mech Rider Evo. Now, one thing I will say about these core sets is that the prices actually have been pretty fair so far. This one is the only one that to me stretches it a little bit, because if the mechs you count as $10, then this is a $35 motorcycle, which, yeah, it's an oversized bike, but I feel like that's a little steep. This feels more like maybe a $25 bike. I would have been really happy if this, say, retailed for $35, but we can't always have what we want. Now, of course, this is a very unique concept because it is an oversized bike to be driven by a mech, which is very interesting. I would love to see how this actually plays in hand. Now, one thing I do love about this is that they introduced brand new molds for the fingers, which will not only be useful for Ninjago mechs and stuff like that, but would be very useful for, say, Bionicle mechs and whatnot. It is officially articulatable fingers on a construction or construction plus action figure style build. It also introduces a brand new blade for the Ninja in 2023, which is alright. It's maybe a little bit too large for my taste, but it's alright. I think it's okay. It's cool that Ninjago's introducing new Bionicle-like blade pieces pretty much every single wave, which I really appreciate. Now, this does come with what appears to be the main villain of the core wave. Obviously, not really going to get any story content, but this is the Bone King, which that's a pretty metal name. Just simply Bone King. That's a really cool name for the villain. I like that. He doesn't even have another name. He's just the Bone King, and I appreciate that. Now, moving on to the actual set itself, I find it interesting how this does include Kai and Nia, which is great because they are the sibling duo of Ninjago. The mech itself, yeah, it's another Kai mech that is a core style mech. I don't know why they didn't do it for, I don't know, some of the other ninja in the wave. A lot of the other ninja haven't gotten core mechs yet. Jay is getting a larger mech this wave, so maybe not him. Let's count down the list. Zane had one last year, Kai had one this year, I guess, so Zane and Kai have them. Lloyd now has one thanks to this wave, and that leaves Cole, Nia, and Jay as the ones that are missing them. Now, Jay's getting his Titan mech, so let's rule him out, but Cole and Nia could have easily gotten it. And sure, I understand that they wanted to maybe give them smaller sets because Kai sells better, kids like red, I guess, and it is still very nice that we're getting dragons for Cole and Nia, and I do like how we're getting representation for every single one of the ninja in each of these sets, but it is still kind of redundant to give us another Kai mech. Although I guess LEGO kind of boxed themselves in here. Maybe they could have done the dual pack between Kai and the Bone Warrior and given Lloyd his mech here. I don't know. There's something that could have been done to optimize this. I'm not quite sure. But again, we get another Kai core mech, which is alright. And the bike itself is pretty goofy looking, but also kind of cool looking. I definitely want to have it in hand to see just how good those proportions are. And of course, do stay tuned because around January 1st, I'll be publishing reviews of the newer core wave. Unfortunately, I have not gotten the Ninjago sets through LAN. I've gotten a few other sets, which are very exciting, which you should stay tuned to the channel if you want to see early reviews of some other sets, but core, I'll be waiting to January 1st to buy them like any regular person. Moving on, we have set number 71787, the Creative Ninja Brick Box. This is a first for LEGO Ninjago, retailing for $60 US, and it is a very interesting concept for a set because we do get a lot of brick boxes in other themes. Mostly it's just creator, classic style stuff. We got a couple for the Lego movies and some for like Lego Batman movie and stuff like that. I guess the Lego Ninjago movie got something sort of similar with a 4+ set, but we haven't actually gotten in the mainline Ninjago line a brick box where you can just kind of build your own Ninjago themed vehicles. This, I think, is a really cool thing to have, and I kind of wish that LEGO would do this kind of evergreen for the Ninjago theme. Maybe every January they could introduce another brick box, because that's kind of what LEGO is all about, just building stuff with your own bricks. Now this introduces 2 more hero-styled minifigures, very creatively named. What are they named? Apprentice Male and Apprentice Female. I don't know why those names are really funny to me, like they didn't even bother to give them actual names. I guess the point of that is so that kids can put themselves into the world of Ninjago and imagine that they are Apprentice Male and Apprentice Female. But I don't know, it's just kind of funny how they have such generic names. It's not even like, I don't know, Apprentice, Ninja Apprentice, or another Ninja Apprentice. It's like Apprentice Male and Female. I don't know why. That's just kind of odd to me. But it is interesting to get training outfits that are Ninjago inspired. Only the torsos are new here, and I guess they only had the budget to create 1 new torso. The color scheme really reminds me of Griffin Turner, almost like it could be used for a legacy Griffin Turner, the Master of Speed, with the red and white color scheme with a black belt. But I think they're alright. They're just interesting additions to the Ninjago minifigure collection that I don't really know where I'd put these. I guess in the side characters section, they're a little bit odd, but yeah, interesting to see them in a brick box, and all in all, this is kind of a smaller version of a monastery-style build. Now, you can actually see shots of all of the different bricks included in the set. Presumably, they would introduce alternate builds that you can do with this. I don't see any in the official images, but I would assume that they would have at least a few alternate builds that you could do with the bricks themselves, but of course the point of brick boxes is that you come up with your own builds. One thing I do like is that they introduced the Sword of Fire mold, or they include the Sword of Fire mold from 2011. Glad that that hasn't been discontinued yet, because that is a really, really good piece to have. But overall, it's just a pretty charming little simplified training area for Ninja. Nothing too crazy going on, again including Kai and Nia, which is interesting having them be in such a focus of this wave. Hey, it's cool to get more Nia. LEGO didn't really give us a lot of her before, so it's good that we're getting more of her now. And overall, this is just an interesting set that also includes Master Wu. But moving on, we have what is probably my favorite, and yeah, I know it's a lot of people's favorites, set of the wave, set number 71785, Jay's Titan Mech. Now this is really cool. It retails for $80 US. Ooh, okay. That's a little steep, LEGO. I think 70 is already pushing it. 60 would have been fantastic for this. 80 for this. Oh man, how many pieces does it have? Let's see. Oh, it doesn't say. I do not know the number of pieces off the top of my head. 80 feels really steep to me for this particular set. I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. Maybe this is just me being unfair for the set. I am looking up now. It comes with, okay, 794 pieces. So basically 800 pieces. I don't know if that's worth 80. I don't know. Folks, you let me know. Does this feel like an $80 set to you? Anyway, price aside, I think this is probably one of the best Ninjago mechs they've done in years. It has such a unique visual style to it. I love the way that this looks, and of course, it does have full articulation in the knees. That is right, we have knee articulation for this mech, elbow articulation. You have some massive blasters mounted on the sides, and one of the things that when images of this set first leaked, or I guess, sorry, I can't say leaked, they appeared online, I was very curious what the build on the back of the head looked like, and it is, interestingly enough, not using flex tubing as I initially thought. They're just using the standard hose elements to connect a ton of Technic smaller 1x2 beams together to kind of give it some sort of contrails or hair. I don't know, that just looks really cool to me. This almost feels very anime inspired. This honestly feels like Exoforce coming back to life, where a lot of the Ninjago mechs do feel like Exoforce stuff, but none more than this. This is just so cool to get to me, and yeah, I'm just a really big fan of this particular mech. I love the way it all comes together. This has some new blade pieces being used as well, which is very fantastic, and of course, it does also have a larger sword, but also an alternate dual swords kind of strapped to the side here. I cannot stop gushing about this mech. Price aside, this is a day one purchase for me, and probably the first set I'm going to build. Oh, and if they needed to add anything else to sweeten the pot here, it also includes MiniPix. Now this doesn't quite look like how she appeared in the TV show, where she had a more circular appearance. It is basically like a Woobot style thing with legs, but hey, it's cool to get MiniPix in general. I love the fact that it actually has kind of this samurai-like design and even 2 swords strapped to the side. This is wonderful, and I'd love to see people's actual MiniPix show-accurate mocks being built with that printed piece right there, which is wonderful to see. The set also includes the Bone King, one of the Bone villains, actually a couple of Bone villains, and one of them with a recolored red bull skull. That is very cool to see. That is really interesting to see that being part of the headdress there. And also a brand new mold introduced for a lower jaw of the Bone villains, which I think is very, very cool. But then moving on, we have our final set. This was one of the initial sets to actually first be revealed. Set number 71786, Zane's Ice Dragon Creature. Whew, this is really interesting. Now, the thing about this set is that it is $100 US, and it introduces a lot of new things for the Ninjago dragons. It has 6 legs, which is something we have never gotten before, and is a large-scale dragon for Zane, another thing we haven't really gotten. The lower jaw of this dragon is the upper jaw for Cole's dragon, so nice to see some part reuse there. And I feel like, to be completely honest, Lloyd's legendary dragon this year kind of outshone this one. Now, don't get me wrong, this is a really good dragon, but I feel like it's really lacking in 2 major things: the wings and the head. Starting off with the head, one of the coolest things that Lloyd's legendary dragon did was introduce these kind of specialized molded pieces, but really integrate brick-built components into them. And instead of using just the standard battle droid robot arm connection here, which basically makes the jaw feel very skinny and disconnected from the main build, they actually managed to build an entire head sculpt around that particular head, making it feel very, very solid. And here's the thing. I think they really could have done that with this. That was one of my favorite things they did about that particular dragon, and it's just a shame to see them revert back to this particular piece. They certainly had the parts budget for it. You have an extra gate, and the budget for those parts could have gone into beefing up the head a little bit. I just wish that they actually made the head a little bit better, because they've shown us they can do it before. Now here's the other thing about the wings. It's cool to get the new blade pieces recolored in what appears to be transparent blue. I still definitely prefer fabric wings or even vinyl wings. To me, they just look a lot cleaner in terms of a dragon, feels a lot more cohesive. For a $100 set, it would have been really nice to get vinyl wings, and that was one of my big complaints about the massive golden Ultra Dragon that we got for Crystallized, where the wings felt very spindly and kind of just a little bit in the past in terms of what Ninjago has to offer. But that being said, there are still a lot of really cool things about this, and there's a lot to love. This is still easily probably the best Zane dragon we've gotten. Boreal is really cool, but it doesn't come close to this. I love the 6-legged feature built into this mech. I also really like how the bottom of it is using what appears to be a medium blue color. I can't quite tell what that color is. Is that sand blue? Huh. It's a really interesting coloration for the base of the dragon itself, for the belly, and I'd love to see more pictures of this, or actually I guess have it in hand, where you can really see what those colors are, because that is really cool. I overall think that the body is built in a really great way, and there's one thing that Bionicle fans are going to go nuts about. For the first time, we are getting gold sockets. Those are the original Bionicle hand socket pieces, but in gold. That is sick. That is so, so cool. I cannot wait to literally buy 100 of those off of Pick-a-Brick. So excited for that. Cannot wait for LEGO to put those on Pick-a-Brick. They have no reason not to. LEGO, please put them on. I am begging you. But overall, this is a pretty interesting dragon set that for $100 is alright, but definitely could have been a lot better. I like how it includes the core version of Pixel, and they're including her in more sets, although this doesn't seem to have any exclusive minifigures, because again, the Zane figure is just the same one we've gotten before. Now, the other surprise or cool thing about the set is that it can be rebuilt into a mech. Does that mean I have to buy 2 of these? Oh no, LEGO, what have you done? I think that does. I'm gonna have to buy 2 of these. Oh goodness, okay. Well, there you have it. This actually can be combined into a mech, which is very interesting to see. The mech is alright. It kind of feels like a dragon standing up on 2 legs, because that body feels very muscular and not like a robotic mech, but obviously the pieces here are not robotic styled pieces, they are dragon styled pieces. It feels a little bit awkward to me that it's just a creature standing on 2 legs. I don't really know what to make of that. Ninjago now hasn't really done 2-in-1 sets for a while. The last one we got was in Prime Empire for Kai's Mech Jet, which was a set that could be rebuilt as a mech or a jet, which of course makes sense. But beyond that, they didn't really ever do any 2-in-1 stuff, certainly not at the scale. I cannot remember the last large-scale $100 2-in-1 set that wasn't a Creator 3-in-1 build. So this is really cool. I hope that LEGO will do more stuff like this for core. Back in the day, they had alternate models for pretty much every single one of their sets, and I really miss that era, and it is so cool to see that being advertised on the back of this box. Even if he's a little funky looking, I can't wait to get that in hand and kind of see how he all comes together. But with that, we've taken a look at pretty much every single Ninjago core set releasing this year. One thing I actually like is that the most expensive set is $100, meaning that most of the offerings here are cheaper, from the $10 car and jets to the $20 sets to even just $35 and $45. A lot of the sets are on the cheaper side of things, which is fantastic because it provides a great way for kids to get into Ninjago. Save for the $80 Jace Titan mech, which for whatever reason feels overpriced to me, but again, I may have my opinion completely change on this once I have it in hand. This is just going off of pictures. Everything feels pretty fairly priced. Kai's bike is a little on the higher side for the $55 price point, but it's alright, it's not egregiously expensive, and everything else just feels okay to me in terms of pricing, with the $100 for Zane's Dragon being pretty fair for the amount of pieces it includes. I just kind of wish that the head was done a little bit better.
Alright, and with that, we have summed up our look at Ninjago 2023 core. There are new villains, new sets like Jace Titan Mech and the Ice Dragon and the Brick Box, so many different new ideas for Ninjago, and I for one am very interested to see what they do with the minifigures. Obviously, the ninja themselves are just reusing their existing core suits, but it looks like Lloyd is getting a brand new golden outfit, as well as what appear to be either training outfits or even brand new characters in the Brick Box. Can't wait to see what that's about, and of course, we are getting MiniPix as well, which is going to be one of the highlight figures of the wave, and of course those brand new villains as well. Can't wait to add those to my wall. But overall, we have summed up our look at the first half of the year Ninjago 2023 core sets. Nothing here is going to be progressing the story of the TV show because everything is non-canon, so I certainly can't wait for the new show to launch in the summer, but for now this will kind of tide us over. Thank you so much for tuning into Duckbricks. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to like and subscribe for even more LEGO news, reviews, discussion, and analysis coming your way very soon. Thanks, and bye for now.